Today is September 7, 2022, 2:13 p.m. already. I'm going to start a new movie project called SOB Story. S period, O period, B period, Son of a Bitch Story, where I tell stories about myself, either being a son of a bitch or determining that somebody else was a son of a bitch. You have to do an autobiography based on some premise. So why not the truth? Not everything has always been wine and roses for me, but I don't care much for wine and I don't care much for roses. I've just been an internalized introvert for most of my life, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how I feel about things before I say anything. So everything that I react to around me is based on internal feelings first. I think that's the nature of being an introvert. I don't take information from outside, cogitate it, and then blurt out some opinion, which requires me to be disappointed sometimes because my internal clock is one of negativity for the most part, skepticism, imperious thinking that I'm so smart and other people aren't. And that's my first confession as a son of a bitch. I abhor ignorance. I have done everything I can to make myself a non-ignorant person. I didn't pay attention in elementary school because I was a bad boy. I didn't pay attention in senior high school because I was bored with school and I just wanted to smoke cigarettes and work at the funeral home. Excuse me. Throat's a little bit raw there. And then in college I took my academics serious, but then I was disappointed because by my junior and senior year of college I was failing in my mission with grade point average and general malaise of lack of guidance and advice and mentoring to actually be successful in going to medical school. So I've always deemed myself to be something of a failure because I did not become a medical doctor. You son of a bitch, you. So what did I do? I ended up working in the funeral business with my dad. And there was nothing wrong with that for a really long time until I found out he was going to sell them. So then I had wasted most of my time on a futile effort. Son of a bitch. Anyway, son of a bitch on having a sore throat all the time. It's phlegmy. I try to clear my throat, but I give constant close nasal drip. It affects my throat and voice, and it just sounds like this all the time. Son of a bitch. I mean, why can't I have one of those nice resonant voices? I call them buzzer voices these days, where there's this real harsh tenseness in the back of the voice and it sounds like a buzzer. I want a nice, amenable voice to listen to. What's wrong with that? When I hear everybody, rarely do I find anybody with a fractured voice like mine. Son of a bitch. I mean, why me? You know, how come I was bald-headed? How come I was gray when I was 30 years old? Son of a bitch. I mean, I've always tried real hard to amount to something, and I may have greater esteem in many other people's eyes than I have for myself. But let's wind back to the beginning. I did not fulfill my life mission of being a medical doctor. And I think in later years, that's why I coveted the idea of a PhD, because then at least I could be called Dr. Keys, even if it wasn't a medical doctor. I still have a very high level of education worthy of being called Dr. Keys. And as much as I'm proud of that, I'm still disappointed that it's not MD instead of PhD. Son of a bitch. Okay, so exactly what is a son of a bitch? If you watch the preface, I think you got a pretty good idea. I wasn't feeling good, and I opened this with just blurting out everything that I don't like about myself and everybody else, too, for that matter. I think the distinguishing characteristic of a son of a bitch is that they're irritating, they're insolvably crass, they're spiteful. I can go on, but primarily a son of a bitch is a person, place, or thing, a noun. And I think you can use son of a bitch as an adverb. So it has a wide range of use. So how do you know you're a son of a bitch, or how do you know that somebody else is a son of a bitch? I think you have to first of all be told or shown son of a bitch behavior or persona so that you can say, oh, there's a son of a bitch. Now, I'm going to back all the way up to some of my very first memories with that idea. As an adult, I know what a son of a bitch is. And I think the first time I did anything that I could characterize myself as a son of a bitch was when my brother was very small in the front yard of our house in Gulf Breeze. We had a mimosa tree and there was a low-hanging branch and you could pull it back, and he got right in the line of fire of me letting go of that branch, and I let it go on purpose to hit him, and it caught him in the neck and threw him backwards. I just didn't like having a little brother, okay? And at the time I did that, I just didn't like having a little brother, but I didn't know that was the first time I was a true son of a bitch. Later in Gulf Breeze, growing up, I had friends, and Mark Stuckey had a bird's nest with an egg in it under a lamp in his house. And I just thought that was the coolest thing at all. And he was always going dove hunting with his father, and he was talking about getting a flying squirrel. So I was enamored with all these features of nature at arm's length. And we managed to scavenge a bird's nest one spring that had chick birds in it. Peep, 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 peep. And we took it out to the bayfront, put it in the water and let it drift away, and then threw rocks and sticks at it until it sank. Son of a bitch. Now, this other case, I must have been close to first grade because I didn't know how to spell the word hate. And I asked my mother, how do you spell hate? And she told me H-A-T-E. So I wrote out, I hate Bill, my brother again. My mother was appalled at that. Son of a bitch. So as a kid growing up, you do devilish things. You never really understand why you just react because you're a kid without a lot of lively experience. So fourth grade, I remember this. I was appointed captain of one of the kickball teams. Now, I was almost never picked as the captain, but this time I was, and I selected my team from the class, and my team lost, of course. And Thack Dyson, a kid in the class, mocked me for losing. Robert's team lost. And I punched him in the jaw as hard as I could, and he was crying. The teacher came up, Miss Newland, what happened? Robert hit me. I think I got sent to the principal, and I told Mr. Speed he mocked me for losing, and it made me mad. I didn't get paddled, and I never really did get whipped by any teacher. I wouldn't have ever let any of them do that. But, punching that kid, that was a son of a bitch thing to do. But he had it coming, So sometimes son of a bitches do things that deserve to be done. Son of a bitch. Anyway, keep on going. moved to Pensacola, friend Eddie Stuckey. We catch a lizard. And we held it down and had its mouth wide open, and I poked a pebble into the mouth of that lizard. We thought that was funny. I'm sure the lizard died. Son of a bitch. All these childish things. And then getting a magnifying glass, going out into the backyard and finding a fire ant bed and mixing it up so the ants would come out, and then frying the ants with the magnifying glass. That was kind of fun. But it's in line with these cruel behaviors. So I think early on, my flavor of being a son of a bitch was being cruel to animals and little children. But you're just a kid, and what do you know? So maybe you're an innocent son of a bitch until you start getting devious. And I did get devious. I amplified my bad boy behavior. I'm afraid I can't document what I did with another friend, but it was severe, and we did it twice and got away with it twice. Maybe when I'm on my deathbed, I might tell you what that was, but I could have gone to jail. It would have cost my dad a lot of money. Juvenile delinquent behavior. Now, when I look back at it, son of a bitch, I'm glad I didn't get caught. So, youth. You inculcate certain behaviors that later could be characterized as being a son of a bitch, and you didn't even know it. Anyway, I'm going to cut the clip here so I don't overdo the memory of my computer, and come back in a minute with more tales of woe. Okay, so I talked about how when you're growing up you can do son of a bitch behavior or participate in it. You don't really know you're being a son of a bitch until you grow as an adult and look back on those memories. But I want to say that thing that I wouldn't talk about did not involve hurting anybody. It had to do with the destruction of property. That's all I'm going to say about it. So anyway, I go to work for my dad, and I encounter a lot of people in the funeral business that would sometimes blame me for the person being dead. Now, this was a normal reaction to grief, anger, denial, and they got to blame somebody, so they blame me. And we just learned how to put up with that in the funeral business. So they were sons of bitches with what they'd say and how they would act, but they would go away. Next, everybody would be nice. And after the funeral business, I went to work at the Lakeview Center. He was only 25 years old, but that didn't matter. He was an accountant, MBA, CPA. This was his first management job, and I was his junior accountant. And he was trying to treat that job there like it was some kind of powerhouse job on Wall Street, making me stay late, 5 or 6 o'clock, come in half a day Saturday. Nobody else worked like that at the Lakeview Center. He was just trying to show off. I got fed up with him and quit, and I think they fired him later. Ben Bell, first son of a bitch, after Ray Hill in Birmingham, which you got to see good, honest hatred video for a discussion of that goddamn son of a bitch. So anyway, I go to Chicago and I meet Jean Ingle. She's my first lady boss there, and she treated me fairly. I got hired under her, got promoted under her, but she had a sour, dour personality. So I don't think a woman can be a son of a bitch, but her personality was a son of a bitch. She was just unapproachable with her demeanor and everything, and nobody really liked her. And if she was a man, you would have called her the son of a bitch. Later on, I had Darsh Wassan. After Martin Cole left, I worked with Darsh for about a year. calling me an idiot, snatching papers out of my hand, even spit his lunch on my shirt one time, screaming and hollering. I finally had to go talk to HR about him. And he got into it with me one day, and I just said, I just can't work like this. And told him all about how I felt. And he was self-effacing enough to apologize. I got to New Mexico. I didn't have any problem there with John Grattan. He was a pretty good boss. Spineless, but anyway, didn't bother me. And then when I got to Lone Star, some of those conservative Christian evangelicals didn't like the fact that I would cuss sometimes. Ugh, you cussing. I guess if I said shit or fuck or damn or hell or something, they had to go wash their ears out with holy water or something. Anyway, wasn't cussing at anybody, but you're talking about a circumstance. Yeah, well, we're going to get into that damn thing, or we're going to conquer that son of a bitch, or I'm going to take charge and he can go to hell. This bullshit talk. Well, that didn't fly very well with these kind of people, and somebody wrote a complaint to the president, calls me in, and there's the HR director, and they're going to write me up for it and make me fill out some kind of remedial forms to correct my behavior. That was just like stabbing me in the back. I took those papers, threw them in the trash, and quit. Fuck people like that. You don't mess with a man's livelihood. If somebody's got a problem with you, you should talk about it. Not bring them right to the execution line and threaten them like that. Fuck people like that. So that was a son of a bitch behavior against me. And I got kicked in the ass all through my career by sons of bitches, but I survived. And now I'm retired and I live in Las Vegas, and I haven't been victimized by a son of a bitch since then, and I'm glad. Anyway, that's people that I've deemed to be sons of bitches, and the things they did to make me think that's the way they were. They don't think you're important. They demean you. They take advantage of you. They abuse their privileges with you. They scapegoat you. They blame you for other people's bad behavior. Man, I can see a son of a bitch coming a mile away now. If you think my attitude about sons of bitches are bad, just wait till we do the next video on motherfuckers.